What is the most interesting thing about me and Russia? I could say that this is a constant coming back and leaving, which in the exit of this idea of coming and leaving, it says that in fact I'm living in Russia. Most of the time when I'm in my village, I'm in fact carrying with me all the cultural, I would say, identities that we share in common, Serbians and Russians. So either at the reception or in the metro or on the concert, when I see the faces, I see the sisters and brothers. And if you go deep into the past, you could come to the point that we are speaking about the same people. So coming to Russia is like each time coming home, wherever I have to stay. We are not speaking just about Christian religion. We are speaking about the European-based culture, which is absolutely connected to the Christian reality. And this is what Europe is losing today, I'm afraid. And the values that we know, I think in Russia you have fighters who are trying to preserve it. I love Russia for even for the formal reason of believing in culture and extending the idea of culture. To me, drug is not comrade, but something more simple and something that brings me to the feeling that is equalized with responsibility. When you say that somebody is your drug, you have to be ready to sacrifice for him, which is exactly the difference that we could find on the other part of the planet, in which drug, a friend, does not mean I will sacrifice for you because you are my friend. And when you say drug, for me, first thing that comes is, if we are fine, everything is fine. But if I need to be sacrificing for my drug, then I could call him really drug. The latest events in Syria shown that in fact the defense of Christianity, not just as people envision like a religion, but also as a culture. It is Russia who is helping it. So it's not just by an accident. Vladimir Vladimirovich is a unique person. I don't have a reason to say this except my feelings, to express my feelings. If you have a world which was 25, 30 years ago was separated in between Warsaw Pact and NATO Pact, you had the collapse of Soviet Union, and you had a misery that was in fact in our eyes, watching from outside, your nation was going through. Appearance of Putin meant not just for Russia, for all the honest Slavs, bringing back the dignity and fighting for all the values that I mentioned before. The appearance of Putin and the stage of world of politics means a bipolar world, which is much more logical than the planet to be grabbed by two families and one nation. He is a person who also, if my job is concerned, he is the one who creates the ambience to develop and redevelop Russian culture. But I think Russia is like never before in a quite difficult position. Period of Hitler, there were not so many armies around your borders like you have now. And the trick they use in the media in the West is that they call themselves anti-fascist and they call us fascist, which is absolutely unacceptable. Because they want to make equal the values in which fascism, communism, all these extremes they don't need. Why? Because they want to put the hand on all values, and especially in Russia. The dramas that we learned were based on the Aristotle's vision, in which the mythical story existed, it happened in reality, the writer rephrased it, put it on the stage, everybody was coming to Epidaurus, everybody was celebrating, getting through the catharsis. Today, politicians produce events, Masonic lodges in the West, plus the corporative power, which I think it's almost like pharaonic power in this period, and they produce events and they create the fiction as if it was reality. So there is no, because the speed of the life today creates a reality show, which is the biggest drama that they want to suggest exists. Why are they doing it? Because they want to divert the attention of the people from the real existential problems. They make capitalism as a fatal fatalism. There is nothing better than this. They create democracy like something that is unchangeable. They create a stereotype of life, which is exactly as I said before. They produce fiction, and they make us believe that fiction is reality. I happen to be director of the movie called Underground, which was made in 1994, which was exactly speaking about this. The war is finished, but two people, perverted people, as Dostoevsky said when they asked him, what will be the future of humanity? He said perversity. So in Underground, you have the seeds of what we live today. Two personalities putting people in the underground. They live in the underground and they don't know the war is finished. When they come out, it happens that they meet the film crew and they start killing people because they don't know that this is in fact the movie. This is exactly what they want us to live today. Absolute control. The case of Edward Snowden is showing in fact what is underground today. You have a few families on the top of the cake or on the pyramid or on the eye who are keeping the world in unknown territory, and they're treating us as a sheeps, and they create a fiction from Hollywood, from all these shitheads, which give us the illusion that we are live kind of the only way life that we could do. And I think this bipolar world that is slightly awakening will make this planet a better place to be. If our conversation is tapped, registered now, somewhere in Illinois or somewhere in London or in Germany, what is the question of freedom that they are speaking about? What is the question of freedom about the Western world if you have every moment of their life registered and tapped and put into the computer, into the server? What then is the question of freedom? What should I do with the freedom if I don't have a privacy? In Russia, when I come, I still have a feeling that there is privacy, there is freedom of choice, there's freedom of decision, and many other things that they lost in the western part of the world. But unfortunately, I'm afraid that Russians do not know what is the advantage of the life that is not the West. You know, if you go to Lev Tolstoy's books, you see that in fact the Russian bourgeois were starting learning Russian when they already know French, because they knew Napoleon is coming. They never believed that Russia will defend itself from Napoleon. I think it's the same today. Many Russians who I see, they behave and they imitate kind of Western style, which is very funny, because we and you are a regional nation. In the world, things are absolutely changed. You have a Brazilian president who is impeached, ousted, and the first thing which is made by a delegate who is representing now closer ties to the United States is cutting out Ministry of Culture. You have in Russia now 5 to 10 great film directors. You have fantastic movies that are made here. But when I come to Moscow, when I see all these billboards of stupid movies, I get depressed. Because I know that you could create your own Hollywood or whatever. You have to create your own mainstream. And what I believe is always the key of the success, to go for original story that consists all the elements of ambience and the Russian mentality, which is going to be always going from one to the general thing, which means your communication with the West and the rest of the world has to go from the story that is found here. And if you look at the best movies that are coming from Russia, they're always enough Russian and enough universal to be understood. I like to make films that are speaking about a very heavy subject, which is Dostoevsky, but to be, when you watch it, to be having a pleasant time, which is in Dostoevsky's case going to be much more easy because it's too strong for today's life that is lost the sense that he was looking for. But I think it's necessary to rebuild this sense. If I do something about Dostoevsky, it must be very contemporary. It must be translated into the sense, and because in Dostoevsky you always have a level of almost a thriller, and underneath you have the depth in which you extend many beautiful things. So it's something that has to be combined in between. What were the values in the period when Dostoevsky and Russia were during the Tsarism, and what is today's modern life and how all the things are changed. And this is why this film I will do anyway.